Yo guys, what's up? It's the 6th of December and Hwei just became available in League, so let's check it out.
A former heir to the Temple of Koyan in Ionia, Hwei spent his youth training and honing paint magic with the temple's masters. Beneath his melancholic exterior is a fantastical and colorful imagination that he's able to bring to life with a swipe of his brush. Following the horrific yet captivating destruction of his temple home, Hwei's art now reflects an internal struggle between beauty and despair. The power of art can bring people together or rip them apart. Which will you choose? Welcome to the Hwei Champion Spotlight.
There's no secret to art. Just begin and keep going. That's all we can do.
Hwei's Q, W, and E spellbooks each have 3 abilities that are accessed by pressing 2 keys, like QQ, QW, or QE, and share cooldowns with other spells from that spellbook. The Q spellbook, Disasters, summons bombastic AoE spells and is your primary damage source. Pressing QQ casts Devastating Fire, a fiery dart that soars out in a line and explodes on the first enemy hit or at the end of its path to all enemies in the area. QW is Severing Bolt, a delayed but powerful artillery shot. Immobilized or isolated targets take extra damage based on their missing health. QE is Molten Fissure, an exploding lava field that deals damage and slows enemies in its path. The W spellbook, Serenities, is based around solo and team utility. WQ is Fleeting Current, giving you and your allies movement speed in a line. WW is Pool of Reflection, granting shields in an area. WE is Stirring Lights, 3 encircling lights that buff your next 3 attacks or abilities with bonus damage that restores mana on hit. The E spellbook, Torments, paints crowd control to restrain your enemies with horrific creations.
How will they balance him having this many abilities? They all seem really useful.
EQ for Grim Visage damages and causes the enemy to flee. EW for Gaze of the Abyss summons a painted eye.
They won't. They won't. Cooldowns balance it? Okay. But he's going to be strong on release, right?
And that will lock onto the first enemy champion it sees, firing after a slight delay, damaging and rooting the first thing in its path. EE for Crushing Maw, damaging and pulling enemies toward the center, then slowing them as they crawl away. This is a lot to digest, and we haven't even gotten to the rest of his kit. Here's a spellbook cheat sheet to screenshot and reference when initially playing the Visionary.
A painter meets their subject, eye to eye.
Hwei's passive is Signature of the Visionary. His damaging abilities mark enemy champions until it's detonated by a secondary damaging spell. If enemies can't move away in time, they'll be hit with a small AoE explosion. Hwei's passive is strongest when multiple targets are grouped for stacked Visionary detonation. But timing is key since enemies can leave the damage zone before the signature detonates. Quickly cast spells to apply the mark on several champions, then deal devastating AoE damage with a larger spell. Hwei's palette culminates into his ultimate work, Spiraling Despair. The spell sends out a thin, long-range missile that spawns a zone attached to the first enemy struck. Those caught in the zone are inflicted with despair, an increasing slow that stacks over the ultimate's duration. They also receive ticking damage. Upon reaching the completion, the zone shatters, dealing tons of damage to all stuck within. Mastering Hwei's ultimate is to overwhelm your enemies with despair, preventing their escape from the final implosion of damage. It's long range but can be tricky to land on one specific target. You'll want to utilize additional spellbook crowd control to help land the initial cast, then trap multiple targets when they're grouped up, and stack despair slows to keep enemies stuck within the emptiness.
None of us will leave unchanged. I'll make sense of our suffering.
With myriad gameplay possibilities, Hwei was made to unlock
Sense of our suffering.
With myriad gameplay
This seems like a Dota hero in League of Legends with what he can do, the amount of abilities he has.
possibilities, Hwei was made to unlock a new level of creativity for players by creating a kit that mixes and matches abilities for any situation. His playstyle is unique among mages and reliant on comboing spells and mastering artistic blends. Becoming a Visionary is no small feat, and though Hwei's skill ceiling is higher than average, once the paint starts flowing, you'll be making masterpieces in no time. As mentioned earlier, Hwei's spellbooks have 3 abilities
or so our mothers will tell us.
Each for a total of 9 possible basic abilities. Q abilities are damage-based, W abilities are utility-focused, and E abilities have crowd control. While some spells have a straightforward use, flex your artistic creativity to mix spellbook abilities and create spell combinations on the fly. When you're learning Hwei, try using every spell sequence at least once to get in the flow of pressing 2 keys to cast.
Nah,
Please focus.
I'll jump straight into multiplayer for this one. Normally, I always do like a demo mode testing. For this one, I'm just going to jump in. It's going to be fine. After all, I have a fresh start with everyone, and it's not like it's going to be worse than my last game, where my mid laner chose to go top duo. That game will sadly never make it to YouTube, but it can't be any worse than that.
You shape what I make.
Let's paint a better picture of some possible rotations. Use WE for quick trades and to stretch out your mana pool between spells in lane. You can also use WE into QQ for a reliable 1-2 punch, zoning them from minions while clearing your own wave. If you can land an empowered auto attack, you'll even get the Visionary signature explosion. To maximize an AoE combo, QE to slow, then EE to pull enemies back into the lava field, and finish with a QW as they try to return.
Sure, I'm gonna get that.
You can also cull your opponent's aggression with an EQ.
Is this gonna be on the test?
Fear, then
Just simply do QE, QQ, WE, and pull them back into your combo. I'll just spam my buttons and see what happens.
follow that up with a QQ or QW trade of your own. One of Hwei's full rotations.
How big is the chance that the narrator to this video did not have a cheat sheet and a script in front of him? He's doing all this off of memory from internal testing, years of internal testing.
Start with a WE auto attack to attach a Visionary signature to your target and apply a damage buff to your next couple spells.
Wait, this is Freak? This is Freak? Oh. The narrator is the lead balance dev. You know, I don't recognize his voice. Because Freak and I were part of the Warcraft scene back in 2003. And he was like a kind of well-known caster and content creator and player in Warcraft 3 20 years ago.
Then you'll want to EE to pull enemies into place for spiraling despair.
I think, even though it was 20 years ago, he was already bald.
While they're slowed with increasing despair stacks and passive marks, use QE or QQ to slam more damage and guarantee an explosive finish. Phew, that had a lot of layers. But Hwei's art isn't limited to destruction spells and terrorizing your lane opponents. When you're in the thick of a jungle chase, use a WQ speed boost to get in range for EW and prevent enemies from
It's a
escaping.
good-looking bald head.
You can also utilize WW's shielding when sieging objectives. But if an unintended teamfight breaks out, WQ instead for a speedy getaway, and QE to slow down pursuers.
A piece is never really finished. Just
Hey, Grubby,
abandoned.
love the content.
For
and
all his
FX
fantastical
XD.
spells, Hwei's
Amen.
survivability relies on being proactive and managing his cooldowns. He has a defensive safety net with WQ's move speed or WW's shield, but he may feel incentivized to WE often for damage and restoring mana. Since each spellbook shares cooldowns, if you waste WE on
I wish he did this spotlight video. Instead of calling them W, E, and Q, he would call them by their real ability names. Do like Surge of Expression and then cast Palette of Artistry. Then do Surge of Expression and then... no? Okay, never
some
mind.
minions to be left without any defense if the enemy jungler decides to gank. You'll also need to know when to paint offensive abilities. EW is great for checking a brush, but it'll lock you out of EQ's fear and EE's disengage if a fight suddenly
I think you should play this video tonight, chat. When you fall asleep, play this video on loop. You'll do sleep learning, and then when you wake up, you'll know all the combos.
breaks out. QQ is all but guaranteed damage, but then Hwei won't have the reactive disengage from QE slow. Each spell serves a unique purpose, and understanding which spell to use in the right situation
I'm feeling so
is key.
schizo.
Remember, there's no such thing as mistakes, just happy accidents. If you enjoy controlling the battlefield like Orianna and Victor, then Hwei is a great choice. He also has a ton of skill potential if you like playing high-skilled champions like Azir. Or if you suffer from a looming sense of artistic dread and struggle to complete your list of works in progress, this is the Hwei.
This is the way.
Feelings are
Nice.
temporary and art is forever, so take that pain and make it paint. Learn more about Hwei, the Visionary, at the links below.
I see what he did there. So, I queued into a game with Hwei. It's just practice tool, actually. It's not a queue in. And I wanted to check out his kit. Because it is release day for Hwei, it's kind of difficult to secure him in a quick match or in a draft.
At least.
So, let's just try out his kit here. So we can get hands-on with his very unique kit that's like Dota Invoker. So, we picked every ability once. If we press Q, we enter a sub-menu. And we get to cast everything. Let's have our cooldowns running. So that's QQ. QW. QE. Looks very satisfying. So the first one is max health damage and just damage. bonus damage against monsters. It explodes on the first enemy hit.
Don't deny what I have to show.
Or it explodes at the end of its location. Okay. So you could, in theory, fail the direct collision and still damage your target, which is kind of cool. If you press QR, you cancel out of it. So in terms of its control scheme, I feel like it's really well done. When you look at Invoker in Dota, the reason that his 3 spheres work differently, because essentially what you do like QQQ and then you R, and then you lock in the QQQ ability under your D hotkey, and then if you do QQQR, it locks in on the F hotkey. So it's definitely a bit more tedious and difficult there, but there's also reasons for it, because the very verdant spheres that surround you as Invoker also have their own functionality, so it's even more complicated. That makes this Invoker light, but it's still quite complicated to get to know this many spells, but it works very easily. You just do QQ, QW, and QE, and you get the 3 different spells, which is pretty cool. And then QR to cancel out of it. But, and this was also my initial point of contention with the hotkey scheme, canceling out of the Q, W, or E submenus is R. If you cancel out of it twice, you get something that's just as funny as Alt F4 or Alt QQ, in that you accidentally cast your ultimate. Putting your ultimate on the same hotkey, I'm talking about Riot's control scheme, as washing your brush is very noob unfriendly. Because that's a 133 second cooldown ult that you now accidentally cast just because you're like, oh, no, I wanna... So, not super... yeah, it's a skill issue. That's why it's not a problem for me. But I said it's a noob unfriendly decision. Then again, Hwei itself is a noob unfriendly champ, so maybe, you know, they shouldn't be playing anyway. Cope.
No justice. Yeah. No revenge.
So then we have Q is all damage and slows and stuff, right? Hitting an immobilized target actually increases the damage by a lot. And the E slows, so you could be like QE and slow them, and then QW, and then you do bonus damage. But that was only 98. That's 100. Alright, let me turn this off because it might be messing with things.
Step by step.
Turn off the auto hotkeys and stuff. So I do QE and then QW.
The haven.
Okay, I'm finding that the very rapid ability of his... you can't use Q spells? 2 Q spells? What? You cannot use 2 Q spells? Wait, hold on. Oh! Oh my god! Oh, that's why it keeps defaulting to W. Ah! So that's also different from Invoker. So you can only spell disaster once.
Life flows.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
Turning.
Okay, so you have to combine another slow. And anyway, immobilized target. Isolated or immobilized. Ah. Oh, so it works on an immobilized target. Then how come I'm only doing 85 damage? Or was it that second? Hitting marked enemies with the second damaging ability creates an explosion underneath them, dealing 83 damage to all enemies in range. Slows not immobilized. No, I get it, but it says isolated. Is he not isolated, this dummy?
People.
I feel like he's isolated.
But what they show.
It's an execute? Based on the target's missing health. Up to 169 magic damage. It's an execute. Oh, okay.
Is limitless.
I see. Build items, mages are weak without. No, that's, you know, that's fine. Ah, you just healed up again. Okay, but okay, I understand the concept. So they can be isolated, How do you know if someone is isolated? Is it the same range as on Kha'Zix? Does it just mean you have to hit a single target? Oh, it just means hitting a single target. So it's not about whether there's other people around. You just need to make sure that no one else is hit by it. Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm just a trace of who I was.
Grubby, we have no idea. It's a new champ. All right, let me teach you then. Take your notepad out. And Pipo G, I'm going to teach you how it works. No, you do have an idea because it's terminology, right, that you're more familiar with. I'm not leaning on your Hwei knowledge, but your knowledge of what immobilized and isolated means. Yeah, that's a huge range. Oh yeah, it's insane. Dude, it's insane. They barely even know where it came from. Interesting. Oh yeah, this is the range of Q, W, E. Some of these look like... It's like a baby Sunstrike. Alright, let's go to W. Try on 2 dummies. Yeah, I'm sure it will not be isolated anymore, right? Yeah, just hit 1 target. Okay, not like K6. Got it. Hwei pants a current of swift waters in line for 4 seconds that grants movement speed. Alright, very cool, very cool. And does the movement speed linger, I wonder?
Moving waters.
Oh yeah, you see the refresh here. You see the speed of refreshing?
Flow.
That means you still have it until here. About this much. Pretty generous. Now, I don't think 20 movement speed is all that much, but it scales off ability power. Which is neat. Scales off ability power and ability points. So it's 20 plus 0.02%, and then it's probably 30 plus 0.3% at level 5. Duration goes up. Okay. Then, WW. WW, Pool of Reflection. This is the one that shields when you're inside of it. The shielding slowly ramps up over time. Allies receive half of that. Okay. And then we've got Stirring Lights. 3 swirling lights that circle me, that increase my next attacks or spells. That means if I do QW, there's many sources of damage that go there. Because my passive also works, doesn't it? Let me see. Yeah. That was like 4 sources of damage. Some of it may be my runes. Like, do my runes have any extra damage? Yeah. So we've got Arcane Comet. And then we have the additional Stirring Light damage. And then we have the signature of the Visionary. So if we do an E on myself, and then we do a QW, 1, 2, 3, 4 sources of damage. Okay. And Scorch from Rune. Crotch for short. Crotch. What? Scorch. Oh, Scorch. Oh. Scorch. I see. Okay. And then there's EQ. Grim Visage, which does a fear. A flee for 1 second. And that's directly away from me, right?
Good, evil. The line blurs.
But what we can't test, is it away from me where I was standing or away from me as I rotate? Because if I start walking here, does he start running that direction instead or keep going? It's from where I was, right? Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And what I also wonder, but I don't think you guys know the answer, if I do this and I flash up, is it from when it impacts him where I now am, or is it from where I was when I casted it? That you may not know the answer, but try on a minion. Yeah, we could try that, right?
Makes people admit what's real.
Can you also spawn enemy champs, I wonder? Let's test it out. EQ. Oh, there's jungle camps.
I I choose kindness until I have no choice.
Oh, it's from where I am now. It's actually from the new location. And Fear actually... Oops. But he doesn't change direction anymore, does he? Hey! The crit got angry. Wait, do jungle creeps have tenacity? I feel like they do. Oh, Fear does follow. Did you see that? He clearly rotated up. The Fear does follow. Yep. Cool. And do jungle creeps have tenacity? Because I feel like Grump is not getting silenced for that long.
Face your fears.
It's less than a second. I feel like he has like 50% tenacity. Grump is a Giga Chat. Yeah, he does. He is. Look at its stats. Do you think I can see whether it has tenacity? It's kind of blocked by the UI. It doesn't show. Alright, and then we have EW. Paint an abyssal eye at the target location that grants vision. How much vision? Okay. Alright. Locking onto the nearest target enemy champion and launches a homing missile at them as well, rooting the first enemy in its path for 1.2 seconds and dealing 70 magic damage as well. I see. And then Crushing Maul, which is like Heroes of the Storm or Fia's ultimate. It's so similar.
Keeps the mind awake.
The chomp towards the center. And then the ult. Launch a vision of pure despair that sticks to an enemy champion for 3 seconds. The vision expands over time, applying a slow to enemies for 10%, stacking every 0.25 seconds. And dealing 11 magic damage per second. Does it mean that eventually they get rooted? Because every 0.25 it stacks 10% and it lasts for 3 seconds. So that's like 12 seconds of increase. 10% times 12 is over 100. 100% slow is root, no? Oh, slow is a cap? What's the cap? Oh, it's the same as in Dota. 100 movement speed is the lowest for slows. Ah, interesting. Interesting. Okay, so this is Hwei, guys. Now we know all the combos, and this is how we're gonna play it. just press everything. What's this? Oh yeah, teleport. Yeah, we're just gonna face roll the keyboard. But hopefully we'll get a chance to play it soon in an online game. And get some ultra kills. I hope you enjoyed the display of the new champ.